and welcome to Truth You Can Wake Up To. I'm Samuel William, and it is the 2nd of November 2012. Getting quite late in the year. For those of you who have been following my show for this last year, I think I uploaded my first video something like almost exactly a year ago today. Why did I start this time last year? Well, thankfully, I get some time off this time of year, which is good. Starting from next week, I have 4 days off every week. Work for 3 days, then have 4 days off, then work for 3 days and have 4 days off. It's going to be good because I can now concentrate on doing this show. And I know if you've watched some of the past episodes, I say things like, oh, I'm going to be doing a show every week from now on. And, oh, I want to make sure that I do at least 2 shows a week. And, of course, with the amount of work I get laid on me in my, let's call it my slave position out there in the real world, it becomes very, very difficult, especially this year. It's been absolutely manic. I've been doing 7 days on, 1 day off, 7 days on, 1 day off, and it's been absolute hell. But it's finished now, so it's fine. I'm doing an experiment as well called recording myself. Hello. And this is for those who are sort of saying, I want to know what you look like. Are you young? Are you old? Well, I don't know what it says on my YouTube channel. It says something like 30, I don't know what it says, 37, what is this, 33, I think it says. Well, I am in my early 30s, but I didn't want to give YouTube all of my information. But I realise now I'm giving them my face. But I wanted to do it just to, so you guys can, if you choose to follow me into this winter past 2000 and, well, the 21st of December 2012, you'll know who I am and what I look like. Also, I want to go out, because I live in sort of central London pretty much, I want to start doing like little virtual tours for you guys who have been listening to me for a long time. I want to do something really, really decent, something else. I've been watching, because I've been working, whenever I get home, I will watch certain things. I've been watching a lot of the UK column. The UK column live is really, really good. Brian Garish and a few other folks down there in Plymouth. Well worth watching if you like that sort of thing. Yeah, I want to go out and show you guys some of these hidden away places in central London that you may have heard about, but not necessarily seen. I want to go out there and explore. I might even call it the conspirator of London. And I'll probably do it in several parts, little bits at a time whenever I get a chance. For example, have you ever been to Chatham House, the Royal Institute of International Affairs? We always talk about the Royal Institute of International Affairs and the Council on Foreign Relations, but have you ever been? If you haven't, then subscribe. If you're not already, watch this space. We're going to go. We're going to go there. There is the Grand Lodge of England, which is, well, pretty damn scary. I'll do an episode on that. If you hang around the Grand Central Lodge of England, if you hang around there for long enough, you'll see lots and lots of guys with those big briefcases carrying lamb skins, and I don't know what they do in there, sacrifice children or whatever they do in that Grand Lodge. There is also a Freemasonic lodge down on the royal grounds, the Royal Masonic Lodge. Ever seen that? Well, you will by the end of this year. Now, plenty of other stuff to see as well. I've written myself a long list, exploring around the Bank of England, the Rothschild Bank and all that kind of stuff, which you can't really find on the internet, to be honest. They like to censor themselves. I don't know why. Where's Goldman Sachs International? Ever been? Well, it's down there. Looks very, very, what's the word? Anonymous? Anonymous. It's almost like they don't really want people to realise that they are there. But they are. And we'll give that a go. Now, I want to sort of make this a catch-up show. It's not going to be amazingly long, this show. But I just want to sort of do a catch-up as a sort of preamble to when I relaunch the show this winter. After practicing for a whole year, I think, possibly, I'm ready to go to the next level. I want to work on graphics and sound, and I've saved up a bit of money during the summer, so I'm going to buy some new equipment. I'm going to take this to the next level, hopefully. By the way, I want to say thank you very, very much to all of those people that routinely send me little bits and bytes and bits of information and the odd PDF and YouTube videos saying, check this out, have you seen this? I certainly appreciate that massively, because I don't have a world of time on my hands, and of course I don't, 55,000 heads, or well, maybe just 55 heads are better than one, certainly. So keep it coming, especially if you're from America, or if you're from Sweden, or if you're from Belgium or Germany or anywhere that's not England. Even if you are from England, it doesn't matter. Just send me stuff. Send me stuff. I can't say that strongly enough. I want to get a sort of proper email address and all that kind of stuff so that you can send me stuff sort of more secretively? No, more covertly, even though, everything we do on the internet is being recorded for I don't know what you would want to call it. For a nice little bedtime story for all those guys that like to examine our lives very much. The Tavistock Institute. Ever been to Tavistock, where they do a thing called applied behavioural psychology and how to do propaganda? Well, it's up there. The Tavistock Institute building, the main building is this university, and it was used in the film 1984 as the Ministry of Information on the film with what's his name, John Hurt. It is the Tavistock Institute. So the directors of that knew exactly what they were doing and want to see that building. Want to see it? I want to know where it is in context with London. If you ever do a day trip to London, you want to come to all of these lovely, beautiful places. The Law Society, the Temple, as it's known, where the Law Society is based. A very, 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 very secretive place. But I'm going to go exploring with my little camera. Now, I've got a list in front of me of all the things I want to talk about. Loads of people have said to me, give us your take on this whole Jimmy Savile affair. And so I will. I think, and I hope, it is pretty obvious to all of those who are, let's say, on the right side of knowledge, as in not on the mainstream media side of knowledge, but those of us on the right side of knowledge realise that this actually is not about Jimmy Savile. This is about providing the baying, brutalised and brainwashed masses with a scapegoat. I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but if you don't know what a scapegoat actually is, I will tell you. Imagine you've got a lot of, say, a lot of cattle, or you want to take a lot of horses across a river that has piranhas. Now, what's going to happen is that you're going to take your herd. Your herd are going to go across, and they're going to get their tiny little ankles bitten, and flesh ripped from their legs by those nasty little piranhas. And so what you would do is you would tie to the back of your entourage, let's call it, a goat, which is alive, but you'd stab it so that it would bleed, and then all the piranhas go straight for the blood, straight for the goat. That is called a scapegoat, so that all of the attention of those rabid little animals, which is the metaphor for the mass population and how they eat up, how they how they consume whatever they are given. Now, Jimmy Savile is that scapegoat. Yum, 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 yum. We're chewing it up, eating it up. People are like, oh, it's the most awful thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So you haven't been paying attention then, have you? You haven't, for example, come across the whole thing with Holly Gregg. You haven't, for example, ever really contemplated the idea that when Prince Andrew got into that trouble he was in, when suddenly it realised, he was mixing with dictators abroad, and one of his best friends is a massive and convicted paedophile. You didn't think for a second that possibly Prince Andrew was a paedophile too? And possibly Prince Andrew is exactly the same as these money-hungry, power-hungry dictators. You thought he was innocent, like an angel, like a wonderful angel. But he wasn't. Because, of course, Jimmy Savile, as they've said in the alternative news, was not just a paedophile, but a procurer of children. For whom? Exactly. For whom? Well, who did he mix with? Well, he went to Margaret Thatcher's house for Christmas dinner 11 years in a row. Does that mean Margaret Thatcher was a paedophile? No, but Dennis? And who else was there? I don't think it was just Margaret Thatcher and Jimmy Savile and Dennis. No, I think there was a party down there in Chester Square. Ever been to Chester Square? Ever seen Margaret Thatcher's house and how it's guarded 24 hours a day with a guy with a gun? Well, I can take you there. Now, this is going to be sort of like a weird, thready, maze-like brain journey, because I've just got a sheet in front of me with a few words on it, and I'm just going to wax lyrical. I'm at about 12 minutes. I'll try and keep this under... I guess I'll try and keep it under half an hour. Jimmy Savile. It's there's, for example, if you ever watched what's it called, youtube.com/Chunky Mark, which is the artist taxi driver, and if you've never watched it, give it a go. It's really terrifying, but give it a go. Once you get used to it and you realise actually he's like a conceptual artist, but he's just working as a taxi driver, and he's pretty switched on. You can realise his ranting, a lot of his shouting, although he has toned it down slightly in the last sort of few months, I suppose, because he got like a serious complaint from YouTube that he was, la la la. And if you're watching on the telecast view, you'll realise that my microphone is broken. So I'm using. I'm going to use this tape. And I'm going to tape this back on. This is how high-tech I am at the moment, you see. 2 microphones running through the little system to give this high fidelity. You see the sound? Listen to the richness and the sound of my voice. I wanted to start recording these and just put little bits in because I am quite gestural, and I know I think possibly some of the words are better explained with like jazz hands. No, I shouldn't say that. That's really cheesy. I've lost the train. Where's the train? Now, if you watch the artist taxi driver, he said something just recently which was quite interesting. He said, "Oh, this Jimmy Savile BBC thing. Oh, it's going to make children in need a little bit tense this year, isn't it? Children in need is going to be a little bit awkward this year." Almost straight away, within about a day or a day and a half, the newspapers had responded, and they'd said, "Children in Need banned Jimmy Savile from 2002." I don't know how long Children in Need's been going. Maybe we should look this up and we should have a better look. But it's like crazy if the mainstream media are literally, watching their arses. If I can use that expression, they're watching their arses so much. Why? Because they're trying to and what's called steer. A steer. We've been giving a steer away from the royal family and from people like, I don't know, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who was outed for using prostitutes, and he was the head of the IMF. Was he just using female? Well, we don't know. We don't want to say anything necessarily about Dominique Strauss-Kahn. I'm trying to insinuate something about the culture of big business and what we would call the elite, the rulers, the masters, people like prime ministers, government figures. Now, we're being told it's all to do with the entertainment industry, and the entertainment industry has always been like this, which is probably true, but it's not just the entertainment industry, because the entertainment industry has only really been around since around about 1953. I do believe most of the television sets that were in the UK, most households bought their first television set to watch Queen Elizabeth II's her getting crowned, her coronation down at Westminster Abbey. That's why they bought them in 1953. Little were they to know that a lot of the people that were sitting at the front of that coronation had been generationally involved in child abuse and human trafficking. I know that's a very bold statement, but if you follow the evidence, if you actually go down the rabbit hole and you look up the curious stories from like places like, I think it's like in Canada once, where the Queen and Prince Philip went over and all these children disappeared. These orphan children, like something like 12 of them, mysteriously disappeared when they were visiting that orphanage. That's all I'm going to say. Of course, it's very volatile. In the last, let's say, last 2 months, have been practicing how to communicate with people. It's fine talking to you guys. Anyone who listens to this show and is a regular listener, you guys know who you are. The ones who regularly, comment and leave nice things, and all of those that click the thumb up button. Thank you guys. You are the hardcore. I must have like a hardcore following of about 20. But if you're in a gang of 20. And, you can get a lot done with that stuff, with 20 people. 20 people is a lot. 100 people is a serious amount of people. If you're all in one place, all at one time, you can get a lot of stuff done with 100 people. You really can. What you really need is like 100 people speaking their mind simultaneously at authority, or so-called authority. I always think to myself, it would be great to do real protest. I know that protests don't work, and people have said this again and again. Protests don't work. 1 million people protesting the Iraqi war before the invasion, and it still went ahead. All these numerous demonstrations and all this kind of stuff. Protests don't work. Unless, of course, the protests are paid for by the Royal Institute of International Affairs. For example, around central London, you see protests all the time. 2 per day, I see, doing my job, because I'm out and about on the streets of London. I routinely go straight through the centre many times a day. I'm not a taxi driver, by the way. A few people were asking, what is it I do for a living? Come on, I've got to give COINTELPRO just a little bit. You've got to give MI5 just a little bit more of a challenge than just telling you what I do. As if anybody wanted to find out, they couldn't find out anyway. Come to central London. You might come across me. Now, I've completely lost the train. Yeah, real protest. Real. Now, you have to apply to protest in the SOCPA zone, which is this, 1 square kilometre around the Houses of Parliament, which, curiously, if you look at the map of the SOCPA zone, which is the Serious Organised Crime and Policing Act, it encompasses the whole of the Houses of Parliament. It goes all the way up Whitehall to past Downing Street, so you're not allowed to go anywhere near Downing Street and do freedom of speech. It also goes all the way down in the opposite direction, down a road called Millbank, to 11 Millbank, which is MI5. And the SOCPA zone goes all the way around the MI5 buildings. You're not allowed to protest MI5. I say we should be protesting MI5. I say any place that they say we shouldn't be protesting, in that they do have more knowledge than us. They know what's really going on. We don't necessarily, but this is why that we engage ourselves in, let's call it, conspiracy research. Because we want to know what they know. David Cameron knows that there's a paedophile ring in Downing Street and Whitehall and the Houses of Parliament, and the MPs routinely hire child rent boys. He knows. He knows. And he probably hires them himself, if that's not too strong a thing to say. He's got a guilty face. That man is guilty. I'm not saying we should stand outside Downing Street and start throwing accusations around. What I'm saying is we should be protesting the Royal Institute of International Affairs. We should, and when I do my conspirator tour of London, there's a very interesting address down on, I think it's number 26. Where is it? 26 Buckingham Gate. I think that's what it is. Just around the corner from Buckingham Palace is Armour Group. Armour Group. ARMOR. Not MOUR. MOR. Armour Group, which is G4S Army. We should be protesting Armour Group. Because protesting isn't necessarily about making politicians change their minds, because they're never going to do that. It's about heightening awareness of the public. You go out there and you speak very loudly in a public space because you want people to realise what is going on. I feel like I'm lecturing you now. Apologies. Now, one of my earliest videos I did probably about a year ago, it was about, it's called 2012 What We Can Expect, and it's a bit rubbish, to be honest. I haven't actually listened to it back for quite a while. It's a little bit rubbish, but what I did say in there is that by the end of 2012, we'd probably the controlling force that isn't necessarily the democratically elected government, democratically. I said, you can hear some sirens in the background. Here they come. They're coming for me. I said that they would show themselves. Those who aren't so-called elected leaders, who are actually in control, would show themselves. Now, I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but it may by the end of the year, because we've still got 1913 syndrome here. 1913 syndrome, where everybody was calm and there was some stuff starting to kick off. There was some tension over in Europe, but everyone was like, it's fine. It's like the most beautiful summer we've ever had. It's a wonderful, wonderful time. And then a few months later, at least in Britain, 60,000 officers, 60,000 army personnel were dead in the most horrendous slaughtering up to that point that anyone had ever witnessed. The man who ordered all of those soldiers to just go into the guns has a very prominent statue just outside Downing Street, just a little bit up that road on Whitehall. The last time the royal family was seen properly in central London was the I can't remember what it was, but Prince Charles and the Queen and all those guys were coming down Whitehall in a carriage, and they put it on TV. It was for the Diamond Jubilee, wasn't it? It was for the Diamond Jubilee. And as they were coming back on the Prince Charles doffed his cap to that guy, to that statue, saying, respect. Respect, dude. I hope I'm not stressing you out too much. I'm stressing myself out. Have some water. Now, I'm trying to do these shows now in like more or less one take as well. You may have noticed they're going to be a little bit longer, and I'm going to be doing a lot more waffling. But, it's all part of it, I think. I think possibly my shows up to now have been a little bit too edited. A few people have said editing the text together, the speech together and stuff. I'm saying I am going to be concise. I am going to be to the point. All of my episodes, I hope, are going to be up to the minute and fresh, with decent editing, with decent sound, decent music, and some, it's like arty film takes. If you don't know what I'm talking about there. Some of the other little shorter films I've done, where they've been a bit weird, people are like, what the hell was that? These kind of like trippy, sometimes slow motion, time-lapse. It's all part of the sort of culmination of where this program is going. I want my episodes to be strong into the future, so people can look back at them, and even though it may be about, say, some government minister who's been taking a backhander from an international banker and giving access to the Prime Minister, I hope that people can rewatch them and they're still valid. I said this episode was going to be under half an hour. It ain't. Because I've got loads of stuff on this list that I want to talk about. The presidential elections. The presidential elections and Syria. Now, presidential elections and Syria. If you watch my one of my very recent, more recent videos, the one about Syria, where I was looking at a document from the Brookings Institute, and it said that basically that Syria is going to be solved after the presidential elections, which are on November the 6th, so in a few days' time. If you watch some of the... I started to make an episode a few days back, which was going to be called Presidential Bullshit Censor, or Alarm. No, Presidential Bullshit Alarm, where I'd got all these videos of all of the presidential arguments, whatever they're called, these televised debates. And the claims they were making about, oh, you wouldn't do this and you wouldn't do that, and I've done this. I was going to, edit on a sort of a bullshit alarm, and then show actual footage of like the drones striking and stuff like that, because it's such a farce. And for those who are still like within this story, within this very well knit together matrix of reality that they provide to them, these people need help. And I was thinking about this the other day. Those people that are there at the presidential elections, unless they're sort of encouraged to come from their workplace, or they're all young politicians or something, and they just want to be involved and they want to be there, and they've got the banners and they want to be doing something. But if there's actually people who go especially to these conventions say if Obama comes to speak at a certain town, part of his like tour, his hypno tour, and if people actually go, "Oh, Obama's coming to town, must go down there. We're gonna put T-shirts on, and we're gonna have banners, and we're gonna yay, Obama." These people need help. They really, really do. I'm also very aware that those people who do need help very badly think that I need help. I like to think that they're wrong. I like to think that the main thing that proves them wrong is that generally you will find, and this is a generalization, but generally you will find those who are very much in and sucked into this hypno reality are those who don't believe in lifelong learning. It's those people who went to school, went to college, maybe went to university, and went, whew, it's all over with now. Thank goodness, that was a lot of hard work. Now I can just relax. I've never been like that. I was never really that studious when I was at university in terms of when they gave me something to do, they gave me a direction. I used to get in trouble for not going in that direction, but actually finding my own direction. Just to give you a heads up, professionally, I suppose, I trained as an artist, as a painter, as a drawer, and I used to do a bit of sculpture and stuff like that. Now, in that sort of thing, the tutors would come along and they would say, this, and this, and this, you should go off in this direction, la la la, go and look at this, go and look at that, la la la, and this is what your work is like, so you should follow that direction. Almost definitely, whatever they told me, I'd do the exact opposite. I was very suspicious, and I was very confident within myself that I knew which direction I should go in, and that actually, if somebody's coming along telling me which direction to go in, then it's pretty obvious. If their brain can come up with it, then they've gone for the obvious thing. And I don't want to go with the obvious thing. I want to look behind the scenes and within my own creativity is a pathway. I've always believed that. And I think that's true for every single person on this planet. The trouble is, people don't follow what their own creativity is showing them. One of the things you realize when you routinely do drawing or painting or sculpture is that a path opens up in front of you. Every piece of work that you do shows you almost what you shouldn't be doing, shows you what you shouldn't be doing. You do something and you go, that's interesting, but now I realize what I should be doing next. Now, if somebody comes along and tells you what you should be doing next, how can that possibly be yours or the correct direction for you? Now, all those people that are going to watch Barack Obama speak, those who go to Conservative Party conferences and Labour Party conferences and say, the Labour Party can take over from the Conservatives and really sort out this problem with the cuts. These people don't own their own... These people aren't masters of their own destiny. They are throwing open their minds and saying, do what you will with my mind. Take my life and put it in a pigeonhole. Put it in one of your bookshelves. Label me and let me be that label, because I cannot create my own. I'm rambling now, I was thinking this the other day that for example, if you see those football fans, soccer, who really like, they don't come from Manchester, but they're obsessed with Manchester United, And they're always also obsessed with what team you like. And if the team that you like is like so much worse than the team that I like. And they take on that embodiment, that hero worship of somebody else's path. These people who can be co-opted by fashion and fashion magazines, these people who routinely watch soaps and these reality TV programs, who get co-opted in the styles and the linguistics, if you can even use that word, of these really, really vain, shallow people that are shown to us on television, and I want to be like that. These people, which we'll generally call the mass market, like a cattle market, all these people who are brainwashed into the political system and the network, the matrix, this woven cocoon of falsehood that is around them. These people need help. They are literally way too impressionable. They're like children. A thing that's really, really close to my heart anyway is Father Christmas. Not that Father Christmas is close to my heart, but why do we teach children about Father Christmas? I'm starting to think, the more I think this is a sort of thing that I spend a lot of time thinking about. Why do we teach children about Father Christmas? I am pretty sure, if you're from a culture that doesn't really understand it, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows what Father Christmas is. I'm sure, even if you don't, you would have heard of it. Because if you're from a culture that doesn't talk about Father Christmas, you'll be like, oh my God, why do they talk about that like that guy, that guy who brings presents? Well, we do in the Western world, and we teach children from a very early age that Father Christmas will bring them presents. And that there's this person who gives presents to all of the children on the planet. So it's a little bit like Jesus loves everyone, even if they don't even worship Jesus. Jesus still loves them, and Father Christmas will still take them presents. I'm getting towards the point where I truly believe that Father Christmas and teaching children this falsity from a very early age is the foundation of the matrix, of the hypno-reality. It's children, for example, children listen very intently to their parents. Even if they aren't really listening, they are listening. And why? Because it's like an evolutionary trait almost. It's like an inborn thing in human beings, and possibly other animals, I don't know. But definitely in human beings, that whatever the elders do, we trust. Because we know nothing from a very early age. We absolutely know nothing. And so we look to the elders, and whatever they do, we say, that's reality. Now, from a very early age, our parents, every parent, more or less, in the entire country, will be telling their children from a very early age, Father Christmas is real. There's this guy who is immortal, who lives up in the North Pole, who provides free gifts to children, and he does it all in one night with reindeers on a flying sled. Now, whatever you tell a child, they use that as a sort of landmark to judge other things that they see. So throughout all of these years where children strongly believe that there's this immortal flying guy with presents, They will look at things and say they look at an old person. Maybe you're going to the doctor's surgery or something, and the child's in the pushchair, and they're looking across. They see an elderly man. They think, I wonder if that guy's immortal. I wonder if that guy can fly. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with fantasy as long as they know it's fantasy. We don't say to children, there's this guy called Father Christmas. He's completely made up, but I'm going to sign all of your gifts from him this year. Children would be like, why are you doing that? That's a bit weird. No, we tell children that it's real. And they judge the rest of the world based on that falsity. I strongly believe that's the first, because of course it's very upsetting for children when they find out it's wrong. Because they find out the adults have been lying to them for years. 2, it just smashes all of their illusions about the world being this wonderful, magical place. And don't get me wrong, the world is a wonderful, magical place. The magic and the wonder is all around us. You can see it in the smallest thing. You can see it if you go up a mountain, you see the clear skies of the universe. There's the magic and wonder of the world. Teach children that. Certainly, wintertime, clearer skies, because it's colder, clears the sky up. There's not so much heat haze. Take children out to a place up high. Go on a camping trip. Look at the stars. There's the magic, the wonder of the world in 3 dimensions, displaying itself in front of you. Just huge vista of rock and gas and chemicals and light. Look at the colours of the trees in autumn as the different trees and the different species, and the ants and the birds, even pigeons, for goodness sake, as they interact with each other and they fight and they wrangle, and you see all these curious things, like in various places you come across where pigeons have taken on this bizarre behaviour where when they're fighting with each other to get the food, normally like somebody's like bit of McDonald's or whatever, yeah. Nobody feeds pigeons like, organic whole wheat or anything, grass seed or anything. Maybe they should. Certainly they should, but they don't. But as the pigeons are fighting for the food, they hold out their wings to kind of push the pigeons back. And you only push the other ones back. You only see this in a few places. Presumably when pigeons see that it's a successful behaviour, they do it. These patterns in animal behaviour and the sharing of like unspoken traits and behaviour in animals, there's the wonder of the world. And it's a very complex idea. And children are into complex ideas. Their brains are brand new. It's like a computer when you first buy it from, I don't know, Curry's or PC World or online from Dell.com. And you spend $1,500 and you get it back and you switch it on, it like boots up straight away. And anything you put on it is like schwang, and it's like really quick. That's a child's brain. Now think about that analogy of the computer and teaching it about Father Christmas. Why would you ruin a perfectly good machine with a load of crap? So I'm going to I'll turn that I'll cut that piece of that whole Father Christmas thing out, and I'll turn it into a special Christmas episode. Wow, I've done 45 minutes. Should we make this an hour? Why not? I mean, you've been waiting for 4 weeks. No, God, probably about 2 months, actually. I don't know how long you've been waiting. 6 weeks, maybe, for an episode. Yeah, you want an episode? Well, here it is, a whole bloody hour. I was trying to talk about Syria. If you go back and watch my episode about Syria, it was actually before a lot of the stuff happened, and it was just played out exactly. I'm not taking any credit or anything because I just read it straight off a PDF from the Brookings Institute. But it just happened exactly the way that I said in that episode. Which goes to show that they're running a playbook. They're running by a book here. They're running by a timetable. It ran out exactly this. It went exactly the same, and you can tell that after the presidential elections, like it says on that document, as I said in that episode, it's all going to happen after the presidential elections. And I think a lot of stuff is going to happen after the presidential elections. I don't know if you noticed this, but Israel bombed Sudan not too long ago. Now, Sudan actually split into two. Sudan and a place called South Sudan. This happened quite recently. Within the last sort of 6 months. South Sudan became a member of the British Commonwealth. Yeah. North Sudan, or just Sudan, just recently then was bombed by Israel. Can we see what's going on here? Also, if Israel bombs Sudan, possibly it's something they've had in the books for a long while. It's all part of the what we would call the New World Order, of course. Getting Sudan, just wiping them out, I guess. Wiping them out. All those that agree that they should be under the sort of tyrannical rulership of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. You can see how I was trying not to be nasty too bad. Those who agreed they should pay taxes to the one of the heads of the tribes of Israel, Queen Elizabeth II. If you don't believe me, look up, what's it called? The Jacob Stone in Westminster Abbey. The stone that sits, upon which sits a throne, upon which sits the monarch of Britain, is actually making that person something completely different entirely. If Israel has bombed Sudan, I think it means they're just getting it out of the way so that it doesn't become an issue when the main event happens. The last thing they would want, is that this Sudan thing, suddenly they need resources to go in a different direction while they're trying to achieve something else. And what's going to happen? Well, I really think it's going to kick off. Sadly, something horrible is going to happen in Syria. And of course, Iran. Whether Iran's going to happen this year or whether it's going to happen in 2013, it's like this thing, is the financial collapse ever going to happen? Or actually, is this like the financial Cold War? And the opposition is us. If you haven't noticed, food prices are going through the roof. If you go to a supermarket today and you see just basic stuff that people are buying, like mothers with like 3 children, you see them there at the checkout and they've got all this stuff. The amount of money they're handing over for just the most basic stuff. Inflation is going to really seriously impact those people who have lots of children, who they're also going to take away the benefits from. Because if they've got more than 3 children or 4 children or 5 children, they were possibly living it up before and they got used to having that much money. I think they're going to bring that down to so you can only have benefits for 2 children. And if you've got a family of 5 children, they've got to live on the same amount of money that 2 children lived on. Plus, the prices are going up. Plus, the expense of electricity and gas and all of this kind of stuff that's going through the roof. Literally. I don't mean like heat is escaping through the roof. What's going to happen in 2013? I think that really is going to be a scary year. Really scary, terrifying year, 2013. In terms of it's the year where the financial war that is being waged upon us really starts to impact. Somebody has to win this financial war. And guess what? It ain't going to be us. Another thing that's happening is that, of course, with things like Codex Alimentarius and GM food, which is rife and is just again and again and again showing in study after study that it shortens your life considerably. It's seriously bad. Gives you give you bowel cancers and stuff like this. It gives you immune response in your intestines, swelling up of the intestines. And the way that they're marketing GM to us is that they're not telling us that it's what's GM and what isn't GM. What they're doing is they're making stuff that isn't GM, like organic, real food. They're pricing people out of that market. Those who are going to be bringing up a family of 5 children on the income of what they had for 2 children, they're making all the GM shit. They're making all the GM crap affordable for these people. So they're eating GM bread, GM fruit, GM pizza and beans. Everything they're eating is created in a laboratory and an industrial factory. Now, they say you are what you eat. And if you are eating industrial food, you yourself are industrial. You are on a conveyor belt. You are being used for your purpose. If you've been watching, that's another thing I should have mentioned at the beginning. I've been watching UK Column. I've also been, as I have been for years, been listening to Alan Watt. And if you don't listen to Alan Watt, you've never come across him, give him a go. I will warn you, though, that when you listen to Alan Watt, he doesn't mess with his words. He's not necessarily humorous with it. It's just absolutely terrifyingly real. And the stuff, I mean, that guy is like, I don't know, he's very, very, very underappreciated. I think it's cuttingthroughthematrix.com. He's very unappreciated, and he's possibly one of the best researchers I've ever come across. And when I say researchers, I don't just mean, what it is he talks about, because, he talks about the Royal Institute of International Affairs, he talks about NATO and the UN and secret societies, and he'll tell you where he found stuff out from. He documents everything he talks about on his shows. And he keeps up to date. He must sit there for hours and hours and hours trawling through stuff, and he comes up with absolute gems that are seriously terrifying about GM. He was talking the other day about GM trees. They're thinking about bringing GM trees. Now, a GM tree won't be eaten by insects, which is why they want them. But then what happens to the insects? They die. But then if the ecology, if the system of nature needs insects, and the insects aren't there, what's the industrial solution? It's GM insects. Well, we already have GM mosquitoes. They have already designed GM salmon that can survive in polluted water. But then, can you see where this is going? But all it will take, and what I've been trying to do in the last few months is I've been trying to learn how to communicate with people that taxation is in fact theft. Now, many of you out there will probably heard of this a million times. It's a very crucial point, but it's a very, very valid point, because the only way we can stop what's going on is by stopping paying our taxes. It's a very complex problem that has the most obvious solution and the easiest solution in the world, which is the non-payment of taxes, bravery, and open communication. We need to be telling people what's happening and what the solution is. Stopping paying taxes is the only solution to this problem. It's a problem in itself. How do you convince people that taxation is wrong and that taxation is the problem and that the government is evil? That's the problem. But the solution is the non-payment of taxes. I think I'm going to have to leave it there. I didn't even talk about Hurricane Sandy. One of my listeners or viewers sent me some videos about it. It's fascinating. Fascinating, really, that the research into Hurricane Sandy brings about the research into Hurricane Katrina, where it turns out there was a scientific experiment going on with Hurricane Katrina using aerosols and heating them to alter its path. And that possibly exactly the same thing happened with Hurricane Sandy. That, I guess, is for an episode about chemtrails and geoengineering, which, who knows, I might get around to at some point. But anyway, I'm going to stop this under an hour, otherwise people will die. If you haven't tuned out already. Thanks for listening to the end. Thank you for listening to my rambling. Hopefully, I've caught up now. And next episode, I can start doing the serious business. But anyway, thanks for listening to me. I've been Samuel William. This has been Truth You Can Wake Up To. And until next time, bye-bye.